All right. Hello, everybody. It is Wednesday, and we are coming to you live. Many of you may not know, but El Salvador actually made Bitcoin a legal currency for the country. That is pretty huge, and we're going to talk about what it means and the effects of it right now. And so, in that space, while Leon tells you why we chose that topic, I'm going to do some housekeeping.
Yeah, so today, or not today, I think either this week or last week, the president of El Salvador signed into law that Bitcoin is now legal tender, a legal currency in the country of El Salvador. And some of you may be thinking like, okay, who cares? It's El Salvador, like, whatever.
I don't think they're thinking that.
No, I've seen stuff online. People are like, who cares? It's El Salvador. Some people are like, what's the big deal? But the reason it's a big deal is not because it's El Salvador, but because of what it can start, right? Like somebody had to be the first one to say, okay, we're going to transact in Bitcoin. And I remember, and I didn't know this till I kind of did my research. El Salvador's their legal currency is the US dollar, right? They don't have like an El Salvadorian currency. They use the US dollar. So now they put Bitcoin on the same platform as the US dollar in El Salvador. So, the US dollar has no more, it's not superior to Bitcoin. In El Salvador, they're right there. You can use one or use the other to transact. And the reason this is big is because like a lot of countries right now are figuring out what to do about Bitcoin and crypto in general. A lot of countries I don't think any countries outright banned it, but they're doing things to water crypto and Bitcoin down. And El Salvador was the first one to say, the hell with all that. We're making it fully legal. You can do, any transactions you can think of under the sun, you can now do with Bitcoin in El Salvador.
Yeah, well, and Lee, real quick, let's think about the fact of what Russia's doing with the dollar and the euro right now. So they're devaluing the dollar and the euro, like not even recognizing it to a point. And so now you have this country that's actually saying, you know what, we're going to put Bitcoin on the same level as the dollar. And these fiat monies, it's changing. Like the rules of how fiat money plays out, or the weight that it carries, is changing by the second. Again, truthfully, they're both currencies just based on ledgers. But that's a whole nother. That's like Leon's inner debate.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean they're literally like Brett said, they're literally currencies based on ledgers. Crazy thing though is that like people criticize the US dollar because it's not backed by anything, right? Like it used to be backed by gold that ended in 1971. So now it's just backed by what we think it's worth, right? And that's the US dollar, the almighty US dollar. Bitcoin is generally the same way, right? It's not backed by anything, right? I mean, there's nothing behind Bitcoin but what we believe it's worth. So you have people talking out both sides of their mouth. You have people that are pro the US dollar and anti-Bitcoin say, oh, Bitcoin's not backed by anything. It's just made up money. Well, so is the US dollar, right? The US dollar has nothing backing it. It's literally, the Fed literally adds zero to the end of their balance sheet to add more money into the system. So they're both not backed by anything. The benefit of crypto, of course, and Bitcoin is that it can go cross border. It's not a currency of any one country, right? Any country that accepts Bitcoin, it then becomes horizontal over a bunch of countries around the world. So it makes it a lot easier to use. And with El Salvador, it being the first country to legalize Bitcoin on the same level as US dollar, because again, the US dollar is their legal currency in the country. This is huge. And I think what I think is gonna happen, if this plays out well, I think a lot of smaller developing countries will see this and be like, okay, they're like modernizing their financial system and their economy using Bitcoin. And we'll go into some things on why that's a benefit to El Salvador. Maybe we should do that too. So I think this is going to have, if it goes well, we don't know what's going to happen yet, but if it goes well, I think we're going to see smaller countries start to adopt Bitcoin and crypto as forms of currencies, which then, I mean, it's the grassroots thing, right? It's going to start at the bottom and bubble up. But then you're going to have the major countries in the West and in the East, likely have to do the same thing at some point.
Yeah, so, Leon, real quick too. I mean, with that, you got to think about as these smaller countries decide on what they're going to do, if they're going to put Bitcoin in the infrastructure, which El Salvador already has dove in. You have to think Bitcoin is still the largest coin in possession in the world. So, although there are a lot of other coins coming up, Bitcoin still is the one that are in most people's wallets. Most individuals holding it, they have I'm not even gonna say a substantial amount, but they're starting to look at it like a more traditional currency than some of the other cryptos out there. Plus, what's going to happen with these bigger companies and these other governments that want to now start using their cryptocurrency? Like, it's a lot of people that still, even owners, because there was a lot of early adopters of Bitcoin that really didn't know what they were doing, and they don't know how to use it or where to use it. It's going to be a lot of people who are like, oh my gosh, I can go to El Salvador and the price of living is cheaper, and I can use my cryptocurrency. Like, it's the best of both worlds, and people will start relocating. And one of the things I do want to say, when you're looking at what's happening with the Salvadorian marketplace, you want to think about what their tax structure is. And I don't know what their tax structure is, how that's going to affect the dollar, but I'm guessing the Bitcoins will be treated with the same tax implications as the dollar, since they both are national currencies of El Salvador now. Just something to think about, the tax side. Always think about the tax side. And that also means some of these big businesses, when they're moving their investment dollars into El Salvador, they're probably going to be transacting in Bitcoins.
Yep. So I mean, this is big. It's the first one. It's a relatively small country, but it's still big because you also got to remember, Bitcoin went from, we'll just say 3,000, so it was at 20,000 in 2016, 17. It dropped to 3,000. It lost about 91% in 2017, back to $3,000. Bitcoin is now approaching, well, it was at 60, now it's around 437.40 now. And this is before any adoption, right? Like, this is before any country adopted Bitcoin as a currency. A lot of countries right now are still trying to, not trying to ban it, but they're trying to weaken it, right? We just had the first country to legalize it on the same level as US dollar. So if you had that sort of movement with Bitcoin before it was even legalized, imagine when all these smaller countries and mid-sized countries start to legalize Bitcoin, what could happen to the value of Bitcoin then? So, as we've been saying about crypto, we're still in the very, 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 very early days of crypto. And this move by El Salvador, while it's a small country and, the grand scheme of the world, it's not really that important as far as economies and GDP. It is a first step, and a lot of smaller countries are going to look to see how it plays out there. And if it benefits the country, best believe some of these smaller developing countries are going to look to adopt it too, if it improves El Salvador's economy. So on the screen, we have a slide we're gonna basically walk through like the benefits of it and how this could actually play out, right? So, Brent, could you zoom in like once on that? Once or twice? Yeah, that's cool. So, okay, so as we said, El Salvador has legalized Bitcoin, same level, it's now on the same plane as US dollar. So any transaction that we do right now in the United States or in El Salvador, well, any transaction that can happen in El Salvador with the US dollar can now be used for Bitcoin. Even this kind of caught my attention, even paying your taxes, right? So like if you owe taxes in El Salvador, you can now pay that with Bitcoin. I thought that, to me, that's kind of shocking that a country that accepts the US dollar as its main currency, you can now use Bitcoin to transact with that country and pay your taxes in El Salvador with Bitcoin, which I think is huge. Another major point is that 70%, this is shocking me too, 70% of El Salvadorians do not have bank accounts nor credit cards, right? So these are people that are, 70% of the population there is totally removed from the native banking system, the native financial system, totally removed. 70% have no credit cards and have no bank accounts. This is, again, huge for crypto, for Bitcoin being legalized there, because while these people may not have credit cards and bank accounts, a lot of them, I would assume, do. I mean, I don't know. I'm just assuming here. Hypothetically speaking, if they do have a Bitcoin, they can now transact internationally, not just locally, but also internationally with no cost, right? And we're going to talk about this in a minute. To transfer money in and out of these countries to family members, abroad or back home, costs money, right? So now these people that had no bank accounts, have no credit cards, can actually pay for things electronically via Bitcoin, which again is huge. It's gonna help boost the economy because you're gonna see more revenue coming into the country that allows people to then spend that via Bitcoin. Another big point, I didn't know this either. Remittance is that's where people that live abroad from El Salvador send money back home by people that now live out of the country. 20% of that contributes to El Salvador's GDP. So El Salvador's GDP is $27 billion. And let me just do my math. 20% of that is $5.4 billion. So $5.4 billion worth of their economy comes from people sending money back to El Salvador from abroad, from Europe, Asia, United States. Here's another big point: the remittance fees for that. So the fees that these Salvadorians that live abroad now are paying is 10% of that 5.4 billion, which is $540 million that they're paying in fees right now to transfer money back to their country. Now think about that. With Bitcoin, that fee goes away, right? That fee, that 540 million now either stays in the people's pockets that are abroad and sending money, or they can now send that money back home because they're not paying fees there. Because remember, to transfer Bitcoin doesn't cost you, it's a very nominal fee, if anything at all. It's definitely lower than these remittance fees some of these companies cost. So that could be an immediate $540 million boost to the El Salvadoran economy just by adopting Bitcoin. They've done nothing else. They spent no money. All they did is have the president and the Congress sign a law saying Bitcoin can now be used in the country as currency, and that potentially boosts their economy by $540 million because those fees go away that the expats from that country were paying to send money. And finally, another big point is that a lot of companies now, technology companies and financial companies, are looking to invest in El Salvador to help the country build out its Bitcoin infrastructure. So again, they've done nothing. All they did was sign a law, and now you have companies, tech companies, and financial companies that want to do business in the country of El Salvador or with the state government because they now accept Bitcoin as currency. So this is huge. This is really, if it plays out, again, we don't know the future, but if it plays out the way it looks, this is going to be a big boom for the El Salvadorian economy, and it will most likely be a model for how other countries that are looking to adopt Bitcoin will follow.
Yeah, and this really can spread through Central America like wildfire. So you have to look at how Central America is going to respond to this. They have they're even Mercado Libre is one point we talked about the stock, and the stock is kind of like the Central American Amazon. And I truly wonder how, if this becomes widely adopted by Central America, how that will affect companies like Mercado Libre. This is something Leon and I are going to watch closely, because even looking at the real estate values, like what's going to happen to the real estate in a country like El Salvador with this just being the first, because this is the first mover advantage, right? So now it's, okay, we raised our hand, we're trying it out. You don't know who's going to raise their hand next, or if it's even going to work. So it's a group of people who are just going to stand by and watch as this freakish experiment plays out. And then there's those early adopters who are the people who bought Bitcoin when it was like $9 or some cents, and they got in early, and now they're glad they did it. So I wonder what's going to happen with the Salvadorian real estate market as a result of this.
Yeah, I mean, another thing is that, so since it's legal tender now and people can use it to buy and sell whatever, like somebody on TV today made the point, like, it sounds good, but think about the pizza guy back in 2010, right? If you go buy, a cup of coffee, a dinner, or whatever with Bitcoin today, Bitcoin's depressed, it's down, I don't know, 50% from its high. You spend that Bitcoin today, and then let's say over the next month, Bitcoin then goes back to all-time highs. You just lost out on 50% gain on that money you just spent because you spent it. So some people are looking at it like, well, I mean, it's great. I personally, I think it's a great idea. I think it's going to spread, but still as a currency, because the volatility is so crazy, it's like, yeah, if you spend Bitcoin now, it could hurt in like 6 months, a year, 2 years, because, Bitcoin, everyone's talking about Bitcoin 500,000, Bitcoin 1 million. If it does get to that and you bought, this dinner one night for X amount of Bitcoin, and you're like, if you head on to that Bitcoin could now be worth a few $1,000s. It's something to think about, right? So we'll see how it plays out. But that is something to think about when people spend Bitcoin as currency, the crazy fluctuations. I mean, just real quick, imagine going to buy a car with Bitcoin, right? Or any asset, a car, a house, whatever. You spend Bitcoin today is at 35,000. Let's say the week is down to 29,000, right? That money you just spent, the cost of your home just depreciated that much because the value of what you bought it with depreciated that much. So it's going to be crazy. It's going to be the volatility around Bitcoin as a currency is going to be crazy, and that's one of the reasons the U.S. a lot of developing countries are really shying away from treating it as a currency because the volatility is so crazy. You can't account for something jumping up 30% or down 30% in a day after you just paid for it.
Yeah, and this goes back to, it depends on how the government chooses to treat it, because really every day the dollar fluctuates in value, but nobody really feels that fluctuation on the value of their home. So it's going to be interesting on how it really does affect cars, real estate, because all currency fluctuates, but you really don't see it directly. I'm using my words very carefully right now. You don't see it directly in the price of a car. Like, you won't go to a car lot this month and next month the prices are different because the exchange rate of the dollar dropped.
Well,
So
but the difference is the dollar moves less than 1% per day, right? And some days it moves, like
yeah,
one
it's
penny.
very
Like,
small move. That's what I'm saying. I'm
yeah,
choosing my words carefully.
it's very, very tiny moves. So yeah, you're not going to see that in like when you buy a car. But when Bitcoin moves, Bitcoin dropped 50% in a week and a half, right? So
Yeah, I guess
imagine you bought a home at, huh?
my question is, we don't know. It's not even a question. We don't know if, like, let's say somebody buys some property in El Salvador and they pay $30,000, because that's roughly one Bitcoin right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Roughly. And so if that house just for $30,000, next week Bitcoin is down to 14,000 in its value, will the house be now valued at 14,000? I can't see that happening. I just don't see that happening. Your buying power has been reduced, and whoever accepted the Bitcoin, they lost. But the person who owns the home, I can't see the value of that house dropping that much because of the currency used to pay for it having dropped. That would
Yeah,
crash the economy.
yeah, true. Yeah, I don't think it'd be that dramatic. I think there would be an effect on. I think there would be an effect on the price. I don't think it'd be 50%. No, I don't think that. But I think if Bitcoin dropped 50% and somebody just bought a house, yeah, you're right. The person who seconded that payment is now,
Yeah,
they're hurt. They're crying.
yeah,
They're
they're
crying.
kicking tires. They
Yeah,
were
yeah,
asking for the house back.
they're crazy upset. But I would also think that if your currency is devalued by 50% in a week, that's going to affect the entire economy. Every asset, I would think, is going to see some sort of fluctuation in their value, just because the underpinning of an economy is the currency. The currency
Yeah.
is now devaluing. That's going to have some effect. What the effect is, I really don't know. That it means pure speculation on our parts, but yeah, you're right. There definitely would be a 50% drop in the price of the home, no. But
Yeah.
I think there would be some sort of change to the price, though.
Yeah.
The value,
Yeah.
sorry, better.
So, I mean, this is going to be a very interesting thing to watch, everybody. And I know I think almost to the point we probably need to open up a new group inside the IAA just talking about this. But I don't know how many people besides you and I are probably going to follow it. But this is definitely interesting. It's going to affect a lot of things. You're talking about car companies. You might see some manufacturing plants popping up over there. It's a lot that can happen as a result of this. But what it'll be, we really don't know. Time will tell. So, stick
Yep.
with this. We'll continue to revisit this over time and time again. And Leon, if this is cool, we can jump into our two picks.
Yeah, yep. I'm ready.
Okay. All right. Let me give you mine first. So today I picked Appfolio. The ticker symbol is APPF. Again, it's Appfolio, ticker symbol APPF. It closed today at $138.58. And let me give you the profile of the company. So they have a market cap roughly of like $4.8 billion. And it provides industry-specific cloud-based business software solutions, services, data, analytics for the real estate industry. The company offers Appfolio management. Basically, it's an app that provides support to property managers. The reason I really like this company is the fact that right now, one of the things we're talking about is there's a huge population boom, and real estate is something they're not making more of. Also, we have this extreme swing in how buildings are being built, properties are being managed,
Hey,
and
Brent.
people really don't know how to keep up with this swing. And it's all moving towards the person with the best tech manages their building most efficiently. If the
Hey, Brent.
building is managed efficiently, then you have that's how you make your profits. And now it's not just about these buildings being properly managed. It's also about the energy waste that buildings produce being under control. So the government has a very strong interest in these buildings and properties to be managed properly. So it's not an energy suck. And then also property managers want the buildings run efficiently for profit margins. And technology is just the reality where we're headed. So, even down to the, 4-unit buildings and these smaller buildings, technology for building managers is everything. Like how much can they correct while still being off campus? So I just love the fact that what the company does. And again, property is something we're not making any more of. So you got to manage it properly. So that's my pick. Oh, and then I think over the last 5 years, this company's up like 670% over the last 5 years. And that's just ridiculous. So I'm not saying that's the future. You never know. But it's definitely something great to see. And, as it stands, I think this company has a lot of upward momentum ahead of it. So that's my pick.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, so I was, we already picked this.
Really?
Yeah.
You
I was
picked it?
trying to interrupt you earlier. I guess you didn't hear me. Yeah,
No, I didn't.
We picked this in April.
Oh, well, I still like it.
Yeah. So, so this is just an add-on to the old position.
Yeah, buy it again.
And I will say you're picking it because we picked it before we picked it in April. It was at 144. It's now 138. So we're averaging down.
Yeah.
But yeah, so okay, so that's Appfolio. All right, so my pick is a company called Unipath.
What ticker symbol?
Path, PATH. So this is an interesting. I really like this company. They're new. They just came public. There's something I typically don't do. They just came public in April. So really recently, it's essentially an IPO. But it's down big from where it came out, it popped, and now it's down big. So what they do is they do something called robotic process automation. And basically what they do is they automate a lot of mundane, repetitive tasks that happen in offices. So they'll do things like account. And this is what's crazy, right? Is this whole automation thing is taking over in warehouses and things like that. But it's actually moving into the quote unquote white collar jobs too. So they actually automate a lot of accounting, billing, and customer service via AI, right? So an example is that says that a bot program using artificial intelligence will scan documents, enter data into spreadsheets, open PDF files, and perform other tasks. So tasks that are done maybe by secretaries or even by accountants or customer service reps, a lot of those are being automated too by a company like UiPath. So they came public in April. They raised $1.3 billion. Now a bit to their financials. So, of course, I believe this was their first report. So this is shocking, but this company is actually profitable. So they reported $10.4 million in profit in the last quarter. And their revenue this last quarter grew by 65% to $186.2 million over 1 year ago. So the company is profitable, and they're growing revenue by 65% year over year, quarter over quarter. So, and also their annual recurring revenue rose by 64%, which will be $653 million. They're estimating in the next year. So they have revenue that they collect that's almost like subscription. And that's what their annual recurring revenue is, and that topped $653 million. Well, they're projecting to top $650 million coming this year. Now, a big point here, tomorrow, actually, their lockup ends. So tomorrow is going to be a flood of stock.
You might want to describe what a lockup is.
Yeah. So a lockup is where, so when companies go public, sometimes the company or the underwriter will put stipulations in saying that employees and early stock owners cannot sell at the IPO, right? They have to hold the stock for a predetermined amount of time. Well, tomorrow was June 10th is that predetermined amount of time, and insiders can now sell. So tomorrow there's going to be, and I don't know how much, I didn't look that deep, but there's going to be a flood of stock that's going to hit the market. And actually, if you look at the chart, the stock is down quite a bit from its high recently. And a lot of people think that's because everyone saw this lockup coming. So a lot of people are running for the hills before the lockup hit. So I would say, if you're interested in UiPath, I would say wait until after tomorrow. Tomorrow's Thursday. Wait until after tomorrow, maybe Friday or Monday. Look to purchase if you like it. After you've done your research, of course. But just FYI, there's a lockup. There's a lockup that's coming off tomorrow. So insiders will be able to sell their stock, which will mean more stock with the market, which mean that could potentially drive the price down in the short term. So that's my pick. UiPath, ticker symbol PATH.
Yeah, and that lockup period is really important to take note of because normally it will drive the price down. But I will say, like Leon said, this is a profitable company. So that's a little bit different. So, don't expect to see a large dip, if a dip, because sometimes the same time those people are selling, there are a lot of people who are seeing it as a buying opportunity, and especially when the company is already profitable. So just look at it a little bit differently than you normally would. So
a profitable tech company coming public is rare. And I'm not saying UiPath is like this big unicorn or whatever. I'm just saying that's rare and that's unique for a tech company. So, and that just the main reason I like them again because they're automating. They're in automation, right? Everything's moving to be automated, but they're automating white collar work, and they're by far the leader in that space. So that's why I like the company, from here and then looking out into the future.
Yep. So the picks today are UiPath, ticker symbol is PATH, and this is the don't forget about it alert for me. And the company is Appfolio, ticker symbol APPF. Again, ticker symbol is APPF. We picked it already. I forgot. So, but I still like the company, and I think the company still has upside potential.
Yeah, that shows that we like. That shows that we like because we picked it again. So yeah.
So last time, did you pick it or I picked it?
No, I picked it. Last time, so I picked this and you picked Bloom at that time.
Well, we're consistent. All right.
Right.
Everybody, we thank you all for being with us, and we will see you all next Wednesday. And actually next Wednesday, it will be Leon. I will be away for my 10th wedding anniversary. So I will be celebrating with the missus, and Leon will be holding it down. So bring all your questions next Wednesday. Ask them as much as you want. And, also too, for anybody who's interested in joining the IEA for Crypto Bulls, we have now 14 members. So we have about 9 slots left before we shut that group down, roughly about 9, 10, somewhere in that space, before we shut the group down. So we had 2 new members in the last 2 weeks. So if you're interested, now's the time. I'll talk to you all later.